Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Barba223. Welcome back to another video. So today we're doing a Magic Necromancer build. I'll be real with you. Magic Necro is probably the weakest class in the game. It's not even really close. ESO, ZOS, whatever you want to call them. They love not buffing shitty classes. They love buffing the best classes. They love having everybody run the same 4 sets. So yeah, ESO to me is in a pretty annoying spot right now. I feel like everyone runs the same exact build, and that's all I've heard. It's cookie cutter, but it is what it is. We're going to try something different. So, as always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. This build does a ton of dot damage, so let's just get into it. So, on the character screen, we got 23k health, 38k health. I'm sorry, 23k magic, 38k health, 16k stamina, 1300 recovery, and then 1700 almost. With a potion, 900 stam recovery, spell damage is 4k, physical and spell resistance get up to 30 and 27. Alright, this is what we're running for the attributes. Feel free to adjust as you need, no worries. We have 24% crit with Mage Light, and then we have penetrate, 5000 pen, and then we have elemental susceptibility. So we are using Vampirism Stage 3 like everyone on Earth is using. We have Jewels of Misrule as our food, and we're using the Atronach Mundus. That's just what we're running. We also are an Argonian. Okay, so on the front bar, we are using a pretty throwback set of Serpent's Disdain. Now, Serpent's Disdain used to be one of the best sets in the game. It's still pretty good, not gonna lie, but still pretty good. So it gives stamina, health, magic, and then increases the duration of status effects you apply by 16 seconds. Alright, that's a lot of duration. Okay, so that applies to poison, burning, concussed, and frost, which is chilled, sorry. Okay, so that applies to all of those. So basically, all you have to do is use elemental susceptibility, and then that's it. That's all you have to do. So, elemental susceptibility, and then you just do some damage. Pretty good. Does a lot of damage. And then this build is really made to buff those abilities. Alright, so I will explain that. So on the back bar, we are running Daedric Trickery Resto Staff. Just to mention, we are using a Flame Staff because that buffs your dots. Then we're using a Poison Glyph. Using a Poison Glyph is very, very important here because poison is going to do damage over time. So, very, very good. And we're using Sharpened. So we use a Resto Staff with Defending. Daedric Trickery gives health, stamina, magic, and then when you deal damage, you gain 1 of 5 random buffs, which are Expedition, Protection, Mending, Heroism, and Vitality. If you don't know what they are, that is movement, damage mitigation, healing done, ultimate gain, and healing received. Alright, that is what we're running. On the front and back bar, on the monster helm, we are running Gerald Mountain's Warchief Visage. This is a little bit of a different set than most people even run, but I think it's a very, very slept on one. So let's look at it. So we are using, sorry, my brain's not working. You get spell damage and weapon damage, all right, and then you deal damage, and it applies a stack of melody, I don't know how to say it, melody, reducing their healing received by 1% for 5 seconds, up to 35 stacks, which is 35% healing received. You lower it to the enemy, which can apply every 0.5 seconds, which essentially is applying every 17 seconds. You are getting the full buff. Applying Melody gives you a stack of Contagion, reducing your own healing received by 1% for 5 seconds, up to 15 stacks. You can only gain 1 every second. Okay, so what does this mean? You are reducing enemy healing, but you're also reducing your own healing. Why is that beneficial? Well, you only reduce your own healing by 15 at the maximum stat, so that's really, really good. And the enemy is receiving 35% in double the amount of time, right? So the trade-off is huge. So by the time you are at, even 10% healing, they are at a lot. All right, they are at 20%. So then you're getting a 10% one there. So basically, the longer it goes on, the bigger of a discrepancy there is, meaning you get a bigger buff. So it works in these longer fights, which in reality, every single fight is long nowadays in this game because everyone is unkillable. So it's just the state of ESO. If you can't tell, I am frustrated with the state of ESO at the moment, considering I've been playing since launch, and I just feel like it's not where it should be right now. Alright, so Danger Trickery on the body, heavy. So we have heavy, 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 medium, light, heavy, heavy. Alright, so you want 5-1-1 in an ideal world. You go reinforced on the big boys, and then you go well fitted or imped on the little boys. Sorry about that, I had to yawn. Then we're using a one piece of trainee. Ideally, we have Bloodthirsty, but we have Infused. And then Danger Trickery again. And then for our Mythic, we are using Death Dealer's Feet. If you do not want to use Death Dealer's Feet, you could switch it up. You could honestly run Malakath, because Malakath is going to give a lot of flat damage. Now, Death Dealer's Feet is nice. It gives a good amount of resources, but if you want to run Malakath and switch it up, then you could take off Mage Light, and then you're really cooking something there. Okay, so think about that. If you don't need Mage Light, then you could really figure some things out there. But I'm running Death Dealer's Feet. You could use Markin, you could use Sea Serpent. It really is your preference. There are definitely multiple options you can use here. So, on the skills, on the front bar, we're running Inner Light. Like I told you, you get crit and you get 5% max magic, which is really nice for your damage. Here we're using Gravelord's Embrace, which has been reworked if you did not know. So for 20 seconds, you have a buff. Basically, it doesn't attack people anymore. You just get a buff. So you get damage done with class abilities and overtime effects by 15%. While active, your third cast of Flame Skull deals its damage in an area and creates a corpse near the enemy. Okay, so basically, it makes your Flame Skull do AoE damage when you get the third stack, which is pretty cool. It's a really good skill now. It's basically, I mean, honestly, it's probably worse than it was before. I'm not even gonna lie, but like, I don't know. I like it because we're running a dot build, and then, it's just something unique that I'm running. So that's what I'm trying out. I'm pairing it with Serpent's Disdain. And then you could also pair it with Malakath if you want to try to really boost up that dot damage. But again, this is personal preference. This is not the right Malakath. I have another Malakath, but you could really pump up those numbers if you want. So that is what we are running on the front bar. And then we have Elemental Susceptibility to apply all three of our status effects for 30 seconds and give minor or major breach. And then it's also a free skill, so it's nice. But you just want to spam this on everybody. Really, you want to make sure everybody's affected with it. Here we have Degeneration as our major sorcery buff, and a dot as well, so that gets buffed by Gravelord. Here we're using Ricochet Skull, like I mentioned already, so actually the tooltip is very high. The tooltip sits at almost 12k, which is a lot of damage, I'm not even going to lie. So that's very good. And then here we're looking at Glacial Colossus. If you don't want to use Ricochet Skull, by the way, you can just go and use Force Pulse. I mean, that's personal preference, but as you can see, this does almost 12k, while this does 7,500. Like, this is doing 12,000. This is your spammable, okay? The damage bounces up to 2 times the nearby enemies, and then your third cast is going to do damage in an area. Like, it actually really is nice. You get a 15% buff with this, so it's good. It does a lot of damage. And then we're using Glacial Colossus, which is going to do 11/6 every hit, which you guys saw, 11/6 every hit, and then applies Major Vulnerability, which increases damage taken. If you don't want to use this, I totally understand. You can go and use Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker's friggin' nasty. We know Dawnbreaker. We know how good Dawnbreaker is. Here we're using Beckoning Armor, so you're getting your armor buff, and we're using the CC version of it. We're getting Resolving Vigor for our heal and minor resolve. Here we're getting Raise Against Time for movement speed, crit damage, and immunity to snares. And then we're using Resistant Flash for our big boy heal. Yes, it reduces our healing received, but we also gain half of the amount as resistances for 3 seconds, which is really nice, and I think it makes up for it. And last, we're using Spirit Guardian, which is going to give you that big, fat, juicy damage reduction, which pairs really well with Daedric Trickery, because Daedric Trickery can give you Major Protection, which is 10% damage reduced, and this also gives 10% damage reduced, meaning you are getting 20% damage reduced when Major Protection is proc, which is why this build pairs really well with Trickery. And then last, we're using a Life Giver. Feel free to go with Ravenous Goliath. Ravenous Goliath is cracked, especially when you get the Heroism proc and it just goes up quick. And you can do a lot of damage really quickly. So those are the skills. If you don't want to use Degeneration because you use pots for your spell damage, I would probably go Mortal Coil just to get even more tankiness. If you really want to push the agenda, you can go Skeletal Mage. for some more damage. But honestly, guys, Skeletal Arcanist is a pretty underpowered skill. It does not do nearly as much as it should probably do. So that's why I say usually just go Mortal Coil and make yourself super tanky. So that is what I'm running. And then in the champion points, we are using Force of Nature because we're using status effects. We're using Macerate Arms, Biting Aura, and Untamed Aggression. And then we are using Fortified, Hardened Juggernaut, and Pain's Refuge. So that is what we are running. Feel free to go back and forth if you want to see anything again. As always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I appreciate the support as always. I'm going to be making some League of Legends content as well. Please support, even if you don't like the game. I would love your support, even just a like, a comment, a view, anything, guys. Means a lot. So thanks, as always. Peace out. Have a great day.